everyone. This is Heather with Ghost Education 101, and I am excited to have everybody here with me. Tonight we have Philip and Pete from Ghost Ed joining us to help co-host, and we are here with special guest Loyd Auerbach, who's going to be talking about paranormal, the education in parapsychology. And for those of you who don't know Loyd, let me pull up his bio real quick.
And you should know him.
Yeah, you should know him, but for those of you, and I will post the full bio on our page. But he's a world-recognized paranormal expert and parapsychologist with a graduate degree in parapsychology, and he's done thousands of media appearances, and we're so grateful to have him join us today. He's the co-author of the new paranormal mystery novel, Near Death, A Rainy Day Investigation, and he's also author and co-author of 9 other books, which we will post on our page for you. He is the president of the Forever Foundation and director of the Office of Paranormal Investigations. He is also a professor at Atlantic University and National University. He teaches parapsychology with online courses through the Ryan Education Center, which I desperately need to get to take some of those. He is also the vice president and board of directors for the Ryan Institute. You can see him all over the place. We will list everywhere that we have, including you can see him in, he's been on the Unexplained, ABC's The View, and Oprah, and we will have all those listed as well. So welcome and thank you for joining us, Loyd. How are you doing today?
Doing fine, thanks. Doing all right.
So the one question, hold on a second, my screen went crazy. Okay. The one question I do have is, we wanted to talk about parapsychology and education. And I've always believed, and I tell everybody I talk to, whatever you do, get as much education about a field as you can.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on getting educated and learning in the parapsychology field?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to distinguish what parapsychology is, because a lot of folks in the paranormal have no clue as to what that actually refers to, since the TV shows typically ignore the field. So parapsychology is it's the scientific study of experiences that we call psychic. It covers extrasensory perception. It covers psychokinesis, which is mind over matter. And we also look at, of course, incidences, experiences, and evidence for life after death, what we call survival of consciousness or survival of bodily death. So where things like ghosts show up, apparitions, hauntings, and poltergeists, they fit in to a couple of different categories, since we're dealing with different kinds of phenomena there. Our field's been around, which is a surprise to a lot of people, since the 1800s. The official start of the field, which was as psychical research, that was the original name of the field, and still is used in England today. It was started in 1882 with the Society for Psychical Research, which is an organization I highly recommend for people to consider joining. And it's progressed over time to different kinds of both laboratory and field work. In the late 1800s, just to let you know, psychology was just beginning, and we split, you might say, from psychology, or I should say they split from us. Since we study phenomena and experiences of the human mind, of consciousness, psychology studies behavior, and they have not generally been interested in these experiences that people have, and often dismiss them. In fact, psychologists are the most critical of our field, of all the fields of science that are out there. And parapsychology means on the side of. So we're kind of on the side of psychology. We're still both dealing with the mind or consciousness in that sense. Education is important in any field. And sadly, I see a lot of people doing investigations or ghost hunting based on TV shows, which don't provide any scientific basis at all, or very minimally, because they're run by producers. They're not even run by people who know what they're doing. And even the investigators on TV who might know what they're doing and might have an education, they're still controlled by the production people. The editing is done by production people. It's not done by the investigators. So you're not getting a real view of what's going on any more than you would if you watched the old TV show, which is not anymore, Cops, and decided to go into law enforcement with that as your training, just watching Cops as your training. So, education is important. It's also important to remember that the web is a mixed bag. There was a line from a quote from a science fiction writer named Ted Sturgeon years ago, that his line was 90% of all science fiction is crap, but then again, 90% of everything is crap. And I have to say that is definitely the case with the internet. You really need to go to decent sources. that are out there. The sad thing here, honestly, is that I got a graduate degree in parapsychology from originally John F. Kennedy University, which has now been merged into National University. Fully accredited university, fully accredited program. The whole thing was a real deep academic graduate program. The problem is that the field is so much a pariah in the sciences for a number of reasons, mostly in academia, and I can talk more about that later as to why that is, that there really are no educational institutions of higher learning, of truly accredited from the college boards or the university standpoint. There aren't any that have programs. There are a few courses here and there. The UK, actually, United Kingdom has a bunch of schools. Over 20 schools teach parapsychology, or what they often call anomalous psychology for that. So I can say that reading is a good way, and there's a lot of good sources out there to get you started. Even if you just started with parapsychology.org, which is the website of the Parapsychology Foundation, an educational organization. They have bibliographies. They have lists of books. And Lizette Coley, who's the executive director, occasionally does a video on YouTube, on their YouTube channel, where she does a book review, just here's the new box of books, here's the new books we just got for the library kind of thing. And she talks about them. She also has put up a large number of lectures and presentations by parapsychologists and people in and around the field that are available on the Parapsychology Foundation's YouTube channel. And really some really great presentations. I know some folks out there know the name Hans Holzer very well. And I was part of a 4-person presentation conference back in 2002, I think it was, with Holzer and Tony Cornell, who actually had more experience in the field than Holzer ever did. He was a British researcher. And also Carlos Alvarado, who is a fellow graduate of JFK, and also kind of our living memory. He knows everything about every bit of literature in parapsychology that's been out there. And there's that conference, there's 2 large segments up there of video of our presentations. They are up there in the Parapsychology Foundation's website. So that's a really good starting point for things, as is the Rhine Center, where I teach, one of the places I teach.
Okay, perfect. And another question that comes up a lot is, how do you deal with the skeptics who claim that parapsychology is not a real science or a field? How do you handle when people criticize it?
Well, it's really interesting that attitude, relatively common across the board in academia in the United States, was not the attitude before the late 1970s. So what happened in the mid-1970s is the Skeptics organization, originally called the Committee for Scientific Investigations of Claims of the Paranormal, got started supposedly to take a skeptical look at psychic phenomena, UFOs, and a variety of other things. I actually knew one of the founding members. He was a mentor to me, a man by the name of Marcello Truzzi, who was a sociologist. He was a true skeptic. And what I mean by that is he was a doubter, not a disbeliever. He looked at the evidence. He always looked at the evidence. He may have interpreted it differently, but he always looked at the evidence. He found out after founding this organization with other academics that their intention was not at all to investigate these claims or the science or anything else. Their intention was to debunk or to basically disbelieve and to make that their mission. So over time, because there were some academics who were true disbelievers in this and still are, they made it very uncomfortable for people in academia, at the college university level and research areas in many fields of science, to the point where myself and my colleagues, when we meet people in other fields of science, they will, in front of people, they will say it's all a lot of hogwash, it's a lot of crap. But then they'll pull you aside later on and say, oh, by the way, I got to tell you my ghost story. So they don't want their colleagues to say that they're thinking it's woo-woo, that it's woo-woo that way. So it's a very embarrassing thing for them academically. And I actually know someone who lost his job because he had an outside interest in parapsychology. And I also know of a situation with a Nobel Prize winner who was uninvited from a physics conference in England because of his interest in this field. And fortunately, he was well enough thought of that the colleagues of his that heard about that yelled at the conference people and told them they had to re-invite him. but it's that kind of crazy attitude. It's not scientific at all, not at all. But I do want to say that there are two types of science. There's hard science, like physics and biology. And then there's soft or social science, like psychology and sociology and anthropology and parapsychology. And hard science is more objective in the sense that you get a lot more repeatability. You can come up with really good theories that can be tested out. Soft science, not so much. Even just in psychology alone, there are so many different schools of psychological thought that don't agree with each other. There is no central theory of mind in psychology. And that in itself is an indicator that for people in the hard sciences, that psychology is not a science. In fact, if you ask a physicist, unless they're related to somebody who's a psychologist, honestly, I've done this many times. I worked at a large lab at one point, not in the lab, but in the library part of it. And I got to know a lot of physicists and other people there and mentioned my interest in consciousness and parapsychology. And they always said, well, parapsychology is not a real science. And I said, I learned to ask them the question, what do you think of psychology? Well, psychology is not a real science either. So that was very telling. And I think physical scientists don't think necessarily a lot of social science that much. But social scientists think a lot of themselves.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
If you're going to get a degree in parapsychology, do you first have to study psychology and get a degree in psychology and then move into parapsychology, or do you just go straight into it? I mean, like a doctor has to specialize in plastic surgery,
Right. Well, what it really, for me, I'll just tell you what I did and then what's going on today. For me, when we had a graduate program, I actually studied anthropology. I had gotten advice before the parapsychology program was started at JFK. I was in college. And before I went to college, I sent a letter to J.B. Rhine, who's kind of the father of modern parapsychology. And I asked, what do I do? What do I study? What's the best thing? Should I study psychology? And the response I got back was that a chunk of the parapsychologists out there have a background in psychology before they go in to parapsychology. But any field of science, social or physical science works, but take a few courses in other areas as well. So I have courses under my belt in physics, in astronomy, in psychology, sociology, as well as anthropology. And that really served me well when I went into the parapsychology program. I'm pretty sure it's the same for any program in the UK. Again, we don't have any programs in the United States at this point. So in the UK, you can pretty much study anything. Psychology is a good thing to study, but you want to make sure if you're studying psychology, you get courses in cross-cultural anthropology because of people's beliefs. You might even want studies, courses in religious studies, for that matter. There's a lot or in history.
Did you have an event happen to you, a paranormal event that moved you into parapsychology? Was there a moment that's like, oh, wow, this is something I'm got to look into?
So the moment, I was always interested in this stuff. The moment came not because of something paranormal, but because I was watching a TV show called Dark Shadows, and in the 60s, and that got me interested enough to go to the library to find books on parapsychology. The first time I heard that word was actually on Dark Shadows. The first time I read that word was in a Superman comic before that. And I was a science fiction and comic book geek. My dad worked for NBC, so I had a TV set in my room. I grew up, I like to kiddingly say I grew up at 30 Rock. And I spent a lot of time at 30 Rockefeller Plaza, where my father worked out of. And when I got to the library, I was surprised to see that there actually were science books by J.B. Rhine and J.G. Pratt and a number of other people. And I just took to those books because I was really interested in science, not just folklore. And lucked out with a couple of teachers in high school, one of whom was the physics teacher who was interested in the subject. In fact, I started a parapsychology club at my high school in a New York suburb. We got to meet some local parapsychologists. I was kind of pushed into this for a lot of reasons. My interest became supported by a lot of people. I even met Holzer when I was in high school.
Okay. We do have a question from Bob. he wants to know, can we separate science from religion with parapsychology, or are they woven together?
For us, they're not woven together. We look at religious beliefs around this subject the way we look at cross-cultural beliefs about the subject. So there are many beliefs around the world from different peoples, different cultures, different backgrounds that may conflict even with the religion of the area or their beliefs in the supernatural or in psychic things. So we look at all of those as possibly helping or hindering people in experiencing things, but they all can provide a real biased lens by which people see their experience. So we try to separate this stuff out as much as possible. And there are some things in religion we absolutely can't deal with. I mean, we can't deal with anything that is of God. Science can't deal with that at all because you can't prove the unprovable. You can't even investigate the unprovable. And God is pretty much, ineffable. If there is a God, God is ineffable. If there are multiple gods, we don't have that either. So we can't really deal with that.
And then the next question talks about, I know you had already mentioned some of the resources and groups, but do you have any others that you can recommend for people to go to?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, parapsychology.org is a good starting point. The Parapsychological Association, which is the organization of scientists in the world, actually has different levels of membership, and that includes people who are students or supporters. That is just simply parapsych.org. And then there is the Rhine Research Center, which is the longest running laboratory in the United States. It's also where I teach out of, teach these courses, these online courses. That was originally the Duke University Parapsychology Lab until Rhine retired. And then eventually after his death, it was renamed. And that's simply Rhine, R-H-I-N-E, Rhine.org. That's another place to go for that. And all of these organizations have got links out or references to other places as well. There's actually Dean Radin, who is a well-known parapsychologist and researcher, actually just relaunched his website at deanradin.com. And there's, you can see a research page and references page. He actually has a page up with some of the best research on parapsychology on all topics. But these are papers or books that people can get to that are free to download or to get to. So there are plenty of resources we actually have out there for folks who are interested in this. And really the key here, and one of the reasons why we have to look at parapsychology as a whole, if you're doing just ghost hunting, is that ESP and psychokinesis are involved in ghostly and haunting experiences and poltergeist experiences, certainly. You can't really look at things, look at these things or try to study or understand. Kona is working on something that he kind of created a term, the Soulphone, which is kind of a pop term. I think it's, from a branding perspective, I think it's a great idea. I am not sure exactly how it's working or where he is in his research with that. He's working with a couple of engineers and other folks. He's done some of the better, started out doing some really good controlled mediumship research and other types of research. So it remains to be seen. The biggest problem we've got, honestly, is that we know human beings are designed for this. So when people ask me what's the best piece of equipment, that would be a human being, because human beings have the experiences and the communications. That's how we define a ghost. It's not just that they exist out. Well, first of all, a ghost is a human being generally, but also to say that there's a ghost here is a human being has to make a report to begin with. To say that there's a haunting, a residual haunting, we have to have an experience. If it's a poltergeist, it's psychokinesis, it's mind over matter. So we have all those things first, and we don't know how to bring that, like my picking up a ghost, my communicating with a ghost. We don't know how to bring that to technology at this point. And then we also don't know how to isolate the issue of human beings affecting the tech, living human beings affecting the tech, not just deceased ones, or a combination of that. So we're still learning. And part of it is we don't know what we're supposed to be detecting. We don't know what they're made out of. We know certain things, but there's a lot we don't. We know what they're not made out of. We know more about that.
Loyd, I have a question for you, Loyd.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on people thinking that the phenomena is are demons versus like RSPK and stuff like that?
Well, first of all, that's a very religious interpretation. I would remind people that the word demon comes from the word daemon, which is, of course, the messenger of the gods. That's an old Greek term. And you're really doing an interpretation based on, for most people, not everybody, but for most people, it's an interpretation based on a book written by human beings, the Bible, and a lot of fear. We find other good explanations for those cases. And for physical activity, the poltergeist cases, which we pin down to a living person most of the time, we can get it to stop without having to do an exorcism or anything else. It's not necessary to bring in religion there. I've actually had Catholic priests refer poltergeist cases to me over the years because they recognized there was nothing, it might have been destructive or chaotic, but it wasn't anything evil in that case.
Have you ever had clients that their religion, you just had to play into it to ease their fears? Like if they thought it was demonic? I mean, and some people, there's no explaining it otherwise to them. Have you ever come across that where you
we try to work within the religion, within people's belief systems, but also give them an explanation of what we have learned in science on this subject. The problem actually has come up for us where we have found cases where people insist that the activity is demonic, and then we find that there are normal explanations for the activity, and we can show them the normal explanations for the activity. They won't have it if they say it's still a demon, and we have to walk away from those cases. We can't do anything at that point. If we can work with clergy after the explanation, if the clergy people are open to the non-demonic or whatever, which actually, honestly, most of them are very open to that, then it's pretty easy to work through that. But sometimes you also have to do, if the good of the family, let's say the clients, the good of the family for us, and this is an ethical conundrum we have. We want to see the phenomena, we want to learn more about the phenomena, but not at the detriment of the people who are asking for help. We never would do that. It's one of the things I'm teaching. Currently teaching a field investigations course, which is the first of a long program. We're actually doing a couple new programs on being an investigator for the Rhine Center. And one of the things I teach them is if people are calling for help, help is what you give them. Sometimes giving them help may mean bringing in a shaman or bringing in a psychic or doing placebo, like a doctor would if you really didn't have a disorder and you gave them a sugar pill. So that might be what we have to do sometimes. But there have been times that people just were so stuck on the demon thing that, again, even though we had really good explanations for everything they experienced, they had seen one too many movie or one too many TV shows, and there's really nothing we can do.
Okay, I guess my next question kind of feeds off of that is a lot of cases have been referred to me, and I truly believe in this field to do no harm. And I've had so many cases come to me where they said the last team they worked with said they had a demon, but they didn't know how to deal with it. And it's consistent. And do you think that the television shows feed into that and why teams always go to that?
Absolutely. I have actually turned down working with some of the shows and producers over the years because even their opening for the show says there is evil here. One show I know of that one of the places I work with, one of the public places, a restaurant I work with, was approached by one show. And the psychic in there, from what I understand, off camera is really good, but everything in that show, the psychic always finds something negative in the location. And there was no way we were going to let them work with this restaurant, which was a working restaurant that had a good ghost and a great story, real positive stuff and really good food. And they don't want anybody chased away for that, nor do they want people coming and, assuming everything's going to be awful, terrible. So the TV folks, demonic stuff, the tragic stuff, bad news gets ratings. If you look at the news in general, bad news gets ratings. Good news does not.
Oh yeah, drama sells so.
And
yeah.
that great ghost story is the Moss Beach Distillery.
Correct.
That is the best story for our listeners. Look it up. I mean, it's
the Blue Lady.
It's such a great story. Well, now she's not always wearing blue.
Although Well, now not anymore. Not
Yeah.
since '91.
Just saw that
Yeah.
magazine, but that's such a great story. I love that one.
And we have so many witnesses, and I got to talk to witnesses going back decades who have unfortunately since passed away themselves. And unfortunately, of course, ghost hunters tried doing a hatchet job on the location back in 2008, and it was really a ridiculous hatchet job, considering that anybody who actually Googled the place learned everything that they were saying was surprising to them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember very well the people that watched that show, how they were coming after you.
Yeah, it was okay.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, some people was really kind of nice because, you know, some people I just said Google it and tell me if you can't find easily. So like 8 out of the 10 top stories that came up at that time contradicted their claim that they could not possibly have known about some stuff that was going on.
Oh yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, just go ahead. I was just going to say TVs are a crazy thing.
I have a question that comes out of your book. I love this book. Everyone should have this great book, and you've autographed it for me too. Be alert to your biases. Can you talk about that? I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe in demons. I never have, and that's partly because I grew up in Reformed Judaism, and we don't have a devil. We don't have hell per se. We don't have demons at all. The Bible, the Old Testament, was parables for the most part, a little bit of history, but a lot of interpretation. That's what the rabbi told us. You know, you learn from that. My grandfather was an Orthodox Jew, and he would get together every once in a while with some other folks from the temple, and they'd take a piece, you know, a story in the Bible, and they'd argue literally, you know, in a good way about what it actually meant, not whether it was literal, but what it actually meant. What was the lesson that came out? And that's what what I was taught. So I have a bias against demons or against evil things. I have a bias against things that people think are evil. This comes from my anthropology background, by the way, more than anything else. And so I have to keep that in check when people are telling me their story. I have to hear what they're saying from their perspective first and not overlay my immediate interpretation of what they're experiencing until we really look into or ask enough questions about what is actually going on. That's important. I also, you know, I do have some biases about the language that people use around this and where they're getting their information from. But the way to deal with that, if you recognize that that's where you're coming from, is to explain it to people. And so this is a really important thing. And one of the reasons I think I can say that if you do anything educationally, take a course in cross-cultural anthropology. I mean, absolutely, because what you want to know is the fact that human beings are the same all over the world. How we look, the lens through which we see the world is different in different parts of the world. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And, you know, you can pretty much learn that everybody's right and everybody's wrong at the same time. And if you remember that, and you're also willing to be wrong, because more information, you know, one of the things I know from my own experience is that I have an initial hit on the case. I get the information that might change, but as time goes on through an investigation, and even after, you may get another piece of information that changes your perspective. And so one of the things about bias is knowing that if information comes in that attacks that bias, that is contradictory, you need to take that into account and allow for that to change your mind. Okay, I think that's a great question. Not hearing you, Heather.
There we go. Sorry, I was just reading the question, but you said it was a great question. So
I think it's a great question. I wonder about that one group, if they were provoking something. I want everybody to think of being the ghost. So remember, ghosts are people too. They're dead, but they're still people. So imagine you're a ghost hanging out in a house, regardless of your reason for being there. And this group of people come in and start yelling at you to dance, basically telling you, you know, do this, do that. And then they're really abrupt and rude and everything else. I would throw things at them too. You know, I always hear from a lot of ghost hunting groups over the years that they got an EVP. There must be a demon here because it yelled, "Get out!" In one case, somebody told me that they got one in the New York area of Get the F Out, which just told me that the ghost was a New Yorker.
Yeah,
I'm
in
surprised,
your
I'm
book,
surprised it doesn't happen more often, honestly.
you say befriend your ghost, which is in the book.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it is true that if you approach the people in the house, including the ghost, like a human being that you want to try to make friends with them, you want to just simply understand what's going on. That's what you want. You want to understand what's going on. What's their point of view? We have had more phenomena witnessed by us than so many ghost hunting groups I've ever seen. I'm not talking about EVP. I'm talking about actual things happening, or getting real information back, or understanding right away what's going on with that entity if there is one there. And that's because if you are a deceased person and hanging around someplace, part of it may just be you want people to acknowledge you're there, but part of it may be for other reasons. And finding someone who understands is a really important thing for any human being. So don't provoke. I mean, those TV shows do that for a very good reason. It's called ratings. It's drama. It just doesn't work unless you really want things thrown at you, or, for stuff scared. I like this person. I actually had, and I think Heather, you said as well, I've had people call me and say that the ghost hunting group came and they got an EVP of a get out or a growl, which could easily have been somebody's stomach growling, and saying there must be a demon here. And they were freaking out. I mean, they were freaked out before. Now they're more freaked out. So when these groups go in with the intention of experiencing something and thinking that it's often going to be negative because that's what they see on TV, they're going to interpret things in that way. I had one report of a growl, like a dog growling on EVP, and apparently there were no dogs around, but it turned out that the family had seen a dog that had come and gone, like the ghost of a dog. They declared it a demon because they were getting a growl. The dog was probably just growling at the really rude ghost hunters. I want to say a different word, but
now we have so many people just trying to make scary YouTube videos rather than getting at the truth, and they're looking for likes more than they are answers, which I find is kind of sad. But
no, I think that's right. But that's the equivalent of ratings.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. The very fact that TV started doing night shot camera and doing everything in the dark, which is not the way investigation should be done. It's for drama. I mean, it does look cooler. Let's face it. It looks cooler on TV if everybody has glowing green eyes and it's all kind of like that. But that's not how people report things. They don't report things in the dark. They don't usually experience things in total darkness. So it's silly. At the same time, I have to be honest, I've had TV crews on occasion who witness things and they refuse to go on TV themselves because, they're the crew and people are going to think it's all fake. And yet some of these crews will actually fake things because they didn't want to admit that they saw things.
Loyd, I have a question for you. What do you think of these folks that go into houses to try to prove a haunting versus being evidence driven?
They're going to get sued at some point. We actually had I had someone contact me a while back from a Sacramento group who said that there were a couple people in another group that were literally driving around. One was supposed to be a sensitive, and they would drive around areas, and if they felt that there was a ghost in the house, they would go up and knock on the door and say that they were ghost hunters and your house is haunted. The psychic says your house is haunted. At some point, someone's going to punch them out, or they're going to get sued because in some places that depreciates the value of the home. So going in like that, you may get a very welcoming couple that says, oh, there were some really odd sounds at our house. Maybe it really is haunted. But at the same time, if it becomes public that they made that pronouncement, that could impact the value of the home, and that's worthy of a lawsuit down the road.
We have another question. What is the most profound visual experience you've had?
Profound. Well, first I can say I've never seen an actual entity, a ghost, but I have seen physical object movement. I think probably, I don't know if profound is the right way to say this, but the first time I felt I moved something, which was back when I was working at the American Society for Psychical Research in New York. And I was at a dinner with some relatives and I was bored out of my mind, and a really big crystal ashtray, because a couple people were smoking, started moving across the table really slowly. And I realized it was coming from me. That was pretty profound. I had already had spoon bending experiences with stuff we did at the university and some other things, but that was one that kind of captured my attention. Otherwise, I think that probably the most profound thing was one of the first times I went to a place called the Banta Inn, which is in Tracy, California. And I was being interviewed. We were looking for places to do for television. I was doing a show called Hard Copy. It was an old news magazine program. And they wanted to do something before Halloween. And someone had told me about this place. So I went and interviewed the owner and some witnesses first. And then I was there shooting with the director and cameraman. And this was at 11 o'clock in the morning before the place opened, which was a pretty high activity time for the restaurant, for the bar and restaurant. So we're in the bar. The director and the camera guy have their backs to the bar. Behind the bar was the owner and the bartender at the far end of the room. There was no one else in the place other than the waitress in the restaurant area. And as I'm talking, an ashtray right behind the director popped up into the air, flipped over, it was glass, and smashed down in the bar without breaking. And they heard it. And of course, the sound got recorded. And the owner and the bartender saw it. And the director's freaking out, like, what was that? And we all told him. And then he said, of course, can the ghost do it again? So we asked, but that didn't happen.
We say that a lot. Can you do it? Can you do it again?
You can ask. Honestly, the first time I was at the Moss Beach Distillery, we were there with Japanese television. And Mrs. Gibo, Aiko Gibo, the medium, actually sat down with the ghost at a table. It was really bizarre in many respects. You mentioned the change of clothing for this woman that always dressed in blue. That's because Mrs. Gibo showed the ghost fashion magazine, just flipping through pages.
I love it. I just love it. Yeah.
And then the people at the restaurant started reporting that they saw the same ghost, but she's now wearing a black cocktail dress or something like that. So later that evening, as we're taking a little break, Mrs. Gibo and the producer, the crew were in this unfinished dining room. They were just working on this new dining room they were adding. It was an add-on. And Mrs. Gibo called me in. She said, something's about to happen. I said, what? She said, well, she's told me she's going to open the door for us. And there's the back door, and it had a push bar, and the bar went in and the door opened up. And I ran outside. There's nobody outside. In fact, there wasn't even a handle outside. You had to have a key to open it up from the outside. So we closed it, and I said, Mrs. Gibo, can you please ask her to do it again? And she did, and it happened again. And then I put one of my people outside, and I said, Mrs. Gibo, please let her know that we're just really interested in being playful here. And the door opened up very slowly for my person outside. She said, wow. She started laughing. It was really very funny. So it happened a total of 5 times that night, and they caught some of those on camera for Japanese TV. So if you're friendly and you have the right person communicating, yeah, you can ask for those things to happen again.
And you've worked with some amazing mediums too, so that's nice. Even though you're parapsychologist, science, you've worked with some really great people.
Well, I learned early on, my first job at the ASPR in New York, I was in the education department. I was actually the media outreach person, education person. And the research director, Carlos Osis, who was a fairly old Latvian guy, had been around doing research for many years. He also did investigations. And we were doing research on out-of-body experience at the ASPR. Our main subject was a man named Alex Tanis, who was an amazing psychic and medium, a healer. He would do medical intuition, so he could diagnose people. He was actually called very often to Bellevue Hospital for cancer patients and others as well. And Alex and Dr. Osis, along with Donna McCormick, Osis's assistant, would do investigations. So this was clearly a good model, and not the first time, of a psychic and a parapsychologist working together, because you then have the experiential and the experimental, and you have both perspectives. And Alex really gave me an idea, a view of what he did and how he distinguished between different kinds of cases and different phenomena. And then Osis would tell me his side of it. So that's what I've been passing along to folks. I found the best talent that Alex actually had that he demonstrated to me, finding a parking space in New York City. I would drive Alex to some lectures or some other things, and we come back to the ASPR, and there'd be no parking spaces around. So he'd say, pull over here for about, let's wait. Okay, pull out now, turn right. And there'd be a space right there, often in front of the ASPR.
Yeah, that's talent. That's good.
Parking karma is what it is. So I have been very fortunate over the years, because of my association with these parapsychology programs or organizations, to meet and work with some exceptional psychics and mediums, some who are just getting started, others who have been around for quite some time. And one of the things I teach in my classes is how to work as an investigator, how to find somebody, how to choose a psychic, how to assess them, how to find a good person, who's going to be useful in your investigation. And it's really something, it's kind of almost a practical art form to work with them. But they can provide information that can corroborate the evidence you get in your technology. They can corroborate the evidence from the witnesses. So it really kind of gives you a full picture. And then they can be a communicator and figure out what's going on.
Shout out to our friend Mariah.
Yes, Mariah. One of my students took most of my classes.
Yeah.
And who I work with quite a bit. Mariah is a really good medium. For those of you who don't know her, she is not shown as a medium, which was really interesting in the Surviving Death episode, which is episode 5, which I was also in. She's shown as an investigator instead, which she does that, but I think they figured they had enough mediums. They asked her to be there, though, which is the weird thing. I arranged for her to be on the show because she was going to be in New York anyway. And they asked for a medium in New York. They didn't ask for an investigator. So that was a really interesting bit of editing, I guess you could say.
Yep. She's the one that sent me your books. Got you to sign them for me.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Do you have questions, Heather? Because I've got another one if you don't.
I have one more real quick question. I know we had talked earlier about how parapsychology is not considered a real science. How do you think the field could be considered a real science, or what needs to be done to make others view it as a real science? So that way
that's a really good question. First, I didn't mention this earlier, but parapsychology, the Parapsychological Association, is a member field of the American Association for the Advancement of Sciences. So essentially, we are recognized by a body of science that we are a real field. Honestly, there's a couple of ways that this could be recognized and as a real field of science. One of which is if people, the skeptics, would stop embarrassing people because they had some form of belief or had an experience, or telling them they're crazy or stupid. There's a lot of them that call themselves skeptics. We call them pseudo-skeptics. They're very arrogant about their disbelief, in essence, and very militant about it. And they've made it uncomfortable for people to express even an interest in questions that they should be asking. So, for example, there's a whole body of work on children who remember previous lives. They're under 4 years old. There is exceptional evidence there. It doesn't mean it's reincarnation, by the way. And that's one interpretation. We don't know what's actually going on there. And the very fact that we don't exactly know what's going on there, that's the question that should be resolved in science at a greater level. But too many people outside our field are afraid to look at those cases because, they're woo-woo. And yet they're there. I often tell skeptics, these people, the pseudo-skeptics, they'll say there's no evidence for this. So, well, first, there is lots of laboratory evidence. We actually have repeatable experiments. We have a lot of data. If you would look at it, and then we find that, no, it's impossible, so why would I even look at it? Why would I waste my time? And at that point, it's like, why am I wasting my time talking to you? Because that's another piece of it that's important. So if scientists would actually look at the research, they would see something of value. Even if they don't interpret it the same way we do, there are questions about experiences that people absolutely have where mass hallucination does not cut it as the explanation, especially when there's very little evidence for mass hallucination. That's a favorite of many of the skeptics when more than one person sees a ghost.
But they're almost at that point not a skeptic. They're just a non-believer disguised as a skeptic, which is...
They're pseudo-skeptics. They are not. They're cynics. They're, they either believe that people are mistaken, stupid, or fraudulent, or mentally ill. And we see that, we see that on both sides. I have to say that there are true believers also who have a hard time with parapsychology because of the way we're looking at the phenomena. We don't accept things just at face value. So it works. It's both ends of the spectrum, and the behavior of both ends of the spectrum are pretty similar. Just like when you get to the far right and the far left in politics, they're very similar. They're more alike than they are different.
Could you talk about separating paranormal from coincidence? I think that's important for new people to comprehend.
Yeah, the word coincidence, it's really when we notice something that we think relates to something else. So we kind of give that connection when in fact the whole idea of a coincidence is there's really no connection between these two things except by the person who is noticing them. That's really what it boils down to. So for example, and then you take it even further, if you're giving meaning to that, those become synchronicities. And there are patterns that people talk about. If somebody says, I'm suddenly noticing that, oh my God, I'm seeing a red cars everywhere. Well, you know what? There were red cars everywhere, but until you actually started noticing the red cars and counting them, they were there. So we have to consider that coincidence means two events happen randomly at the same time, and we draw meaning to those two things. So, for example, if you were having an actual psychic experience with an actual entity, an actual ghost, you saw the ghost and so on, and then the next day a picture falls off the wall because the nail was working its way out, blaming that on the ghost when in fact it was coincidental to the fact that you had this ghostly experience, that's inappropriate. That's not correct. And these things happen all the time. We see this in investigations all the time where somebody has a real experience and all of a sudden now they're sensitized to everything around them, or they're afraid because of that experience. And now everything that it seems off a little bit, if they trip on the stairs, the ghost pushed them down the stairs. If something falls off the wall, if the cat is staring at nothing, which cats do and dogs do and humans do also, that doesn't mean they're seeing a ghost. So we are giving meaning to these random events, connecting them to an actual event. And that's why our investigative process involves not just, is there something happening here, but is every little thing they reported also connected to the something that's happening? Is there an explanation for some things but not others? So it's important to always look at each and every event and think about, well, and we actually discard. If somebody says that we have a ghost and there's some stuff moving around and a picture fell off the wall, we think the ghost did it. You look at the wall, you look at the thing, and you can see that it's worked its way out. You say, okay, we're not going to count that one. That's pretty simple.
Lloyd, I got a question for you. You brought up pets. What are your thoughts on pets and ghosts or haunting phenomena?
Well, we have we have a literature in parapsychology of apparitions, which includes apparitions of pets who have passed on. I've actually had that experience. In fact, I didn't see something directly, but I had a cat a number of years ago who passed away, and I could swear I'd see a blur, and there wasn't a cat around. It felt like my cat was around still for a while. That was only for a little while. So people do have experiences with their pets in that way because we're connected emotionally to them. As far as pets seeing ghosts, well, animals are possibly as psychic as human beings or less psychic, depending. We can't really ask them. We do know that there are some good examples of psychic animals. There's a phenomenon we call side trailing, which family moves away and for whatever reason has to leave the pet behind, usually with someone else. And then that dog or cat gets out. They escape from the house of the new family. And a couple months later, they show up at the house of the old family, the original owners, even though those people moved a couple thousand miles away and flew. They didn't even drive. So there's not even a scent trail to follow at that point. The idea that these animals somehow can trail or track, it certainly goes beyond any biological sense. So we would call that ESP of a form. That's why we call it psi trailing. Psi is the term we use for psychic ability or psychic phenomena. And there's some great cases of that. I mean, some really, really good cases of that kind of thing. The problem with the ghostly stuff, if the dog or cat reacts to nothing like he or she did when that actual person was there, we might consider that, especially if the family saw that person. So if Uncle Harry dies, and when Uncle Harry used to visit the house, the dog would run to the door and jump up and down a certain particular way or would behave a certain way because Uncle Harry got along really well with the dog. And now I've seen Uncle Harry. He's died. I saw Uncle Harry. And all of a sudden the dog is reacting as if Uncle Harry's here. I got to give credit to that dog. But if a dog is just simply staring off into space, unless you can ask the dog what's going on, that doesn't mean anything.
Okay, and here's our last question, because I know you got to get going soon. What are your thoughts on past lives and soul progression? So
I'm undecided about what that means. Honestly, I actually wrote a book, which is available in Kindle and Nook, called Reincarnation, Channeling, and Possession. In our field, we look and have looked since 1960, and even a little before that, at cases of children who remember previous lives. And we have some exceptional cases, mostly through the University of Virginia's medical school. There's a division of perceptual studies. It's another great place to go, that has been looking at these cases around the world since 1960. And there's a percentage of them that are solvable. And in other words, the child who's 2 or 3 can give enough information that researchers or even the family can track down that previous personality. There's often a lot of factual information. The kids talk as if they're adults all of a sudden. There's language involved sometimes. And there are some cases with birthmarks where the child is talking about having been hanged as a criminal or mistakenly hanged by someone, lynched. And there's a rope, what looks like a rope burn birthmark that this kid had from birth. I remember one case from one of my colleagues in Iceland where the little girl knew enough about the previous person and family, this is in northern India, to take her parents to that house 100 miles away, knock on the door, and address each person in that house by name, recognizing them. She claimed to have been the son of one of the people in the house who died in an accident. He was riding his bicycle and hit by a truck. His left side was caved in, which apparently is exactly how the person this family talked about, the family confirmed. The little girl had a huge birthmark on her left side. Now, there's nothing about that birthmark that would tell that story otherwise. So there's something real going on in these cases, absolutely real. Is it soul progression? Is it spirit being reborn? Is it memory? Is it something else that we can't even think about? It certainly doesn't look like anything else we have in psychic phenomena at all. And as I mentioned a little while ago, what's actually happening in those cases? I have a colleague who doesn't believe in life after death. I mean, not everybody in parapsychology does. We have other interpretations using ESP of us living folks. And so he's a pure materialist, but he's looked at those cases and he scratches his head and says, I got nothing. We need to look at these. I mean, all science needs to look at these cases. Psychologists need to look at these cases. There's no explanation for these cases. Nothing certainly the skeptics have come up with. And they'll often say that it's all fraud, which is absolutely, that's provably untrue in that sense. I do want to mention one other thing. One of the organizations I haven't mentioned, the one you alluded to at the beginning of my bio, the Forever Family Foundation, that I am president of that nonprofit. They're featured in a couple of episodes of the Netflix series Surviving Death, and it's simply foreverfamilyfoundation.org. We work with supporting spirit mediums evidential mediums who are working in the family grieving process, and we support the education and research on life after death and survival of death from a scientific perspective. It's a great all-volunteer organization that you can join for free. We will be planning some events again. We're actually going to hold our next grief retreat in July, which is already booked out. We're going to be doing one here in the Bay Area as well in the fall, and some other events next year. But we actually test our mediums. We put them through a scientific screening to make sure that they actually are not only good as mediums, but also ethical.
Have you ever worked with physical mediums that do seances and produce phenomena? Have you worked with any of those type of mediums yet?
I've only been to one, which was highly questionable.
Yeah.
One of the biggest problems, this goes back to things being done in the dark.
Exactly.
You really don't know what's going on. And we have a history with physical mediumship in our field where there have been some really good mediums who under really tight controlled conditions can do things. But for the most part, if they can get away with faking it because it's easier, they'll do that too.
Yeah.
And if they don't allow us to even use night shot cameras or anything because they're actually maybe their belief that infrared can bother the spirits.
Spirits, yeah.
We really can't do much with that.
Yeah. But the spirits are adapting to new technology, so we've been told. So we'll see if that may change in the future.
Life after death, survival of bodily death, as well as a course on the history of field investigation methods. So how things have changed over time. We'll have an intro to parapsychology course as well, and that's through the Rhine Center, rhine.org. You can find me on Facebook. Just know that you can see my name right here. Just look up the right name, the right spelling of my first name. It's just Loyd.Auerbach.author. You can find my author page, and there's even a couple other pages you can connect to. I do an every other week Facebook Live Ask Professor Paranormal through the Live Paranormal page. So people can get to me that way. My next one will be, I just did one this past Sunday, so it'll be the 4th of April is the next one I'm doing, whatever that Sunday is. And then you can just follow me on Twitter. It's either at Loyd Auerbach or at Prof Paranormal.
And your Rhine courses, I've done some. They are live, but the students can go back and go at their own pace also. So I just want
that is correct. And
they
can be graded for a certificate, or they can just take them for fun.
Yeah.
And then they'll have access to the course for at least 6 months after the course is over, and often much longer than that. So we try to, and they're relatively decently priced, I think. They're certainly lower than a lot of other places that teach courses.
They're great.
Thanks.
Perfect. Well, thank you, and we hope to have you back again.
Sure.
So thank you.
All
You
right.
have a great night.
You too. Good night.
Bye. Okay, and we are here to stick around a little bit longer. If you guys have any questions, just feel free to ask us. I'm going to start off with the first one. Heath, this will be available to watch later. You can watch it. It's going to be saved on our Facebook page, but we will also be posting it on our YouTube channel, which is right there.
And Loyd did a really good presentation to a parapsychology group, and it's working with mediums. I think I'll find the link to the YouTube video because it has the complete story that he tells about the blue lady at the Moss Beach Distillery restaurant. It is such a great story about how this ghost came to be and her murder and how eager she is and willing she is to communicate with people. So I'd love to go there, actually.
Yeah, and I'll also get his full bio up on our page, as well as the links to the different locations that he had mentioned where you can find him and do your research as well.
Yeah, I did with the Rhymes several years ago, the paranormal technology course, which was really interesting, talking about technology and the paranormal. And it was a great course. You could watch it, be in class live, kind of like a Zoom type of thing. Or if you can't be there at that exact time, you can go back and hear it. And, it's really great courses. But he was talking about you, Peter, about animals and the paranormal. We had a case several years ago. The lady her claims of activity where she was hearing scratching on her bedroom door at night. It's like somebody wrestling their feet on the carpet. And then she said the first time it happened, she thought she had a home invader because she was in her bed and she felt something pressing down on her bed around her. And she said she absolutely froze. She was terrified because she thought somebody had broken in. And she said she just laid there like frozen. And finally, she said about after 5 minutes, she said, I just leaped out of bed and turned on the light switch. And of course, there was no one there. Long story short, we investigated. Turned out to be her dog that had passed. She had a beautiful painting of this dog in her stairwell. And I said, tell me about this dog. It's so beautiful. And she said, oh, it's my dog that passed away 6 months ago. And I said, so the dog lived here in this house with you? She said, oh, yeah, for like 14 years. And I was like, did the dog jump on the bed and sleep with you? And she said, oh, yeah, every night, would curl around. Well, then we got dog barking EVPs on our recorders. And I said, will you call your dog and call the dog's name and let's see? And when she did, you could hear the dog barking on the recorder.
Wow.
Said, no home intruder or some crazy, ghost. Your dog's coming to visit. I mean, it was a great ending to it, well, she thought it was a terrifying story, but so you always have to realize things aren't always bad. The hauntings aren't scary and bad.
We had a case one time that our next door neighbor had just moved away, and they had a cat that we later found out that they had the cat put down, and had gone into went into the house because the new owners were saying that they were experiencing different sounds and stuff like that. And we were in the bedroom and we heard the tinkle of a bell, and come to find out that the tinkle of the bell was the actual cat that had been put down. So yeah, I understand. And unfortunately, the cat still is heard in the house, and they're on the third owner now from the original people that moved away, and they still hear the tinkle of the bell in the bedroom.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we do have a few questions.
It really broke my heart though, because we were gonna try to rescue that cat, and I called the vet to find out that they had just put him down like 4 hours before. Yeah, it really broke our heart.
Oh, Allison, I'm not sure what the courses cost now. Heather, do you have any idea? I'm not sure.
Sorry, DJ. Yeah, I'm not.
Now we're talking about pets. Your dog hurt us.
She wants to get involved.
That wasn't a ghost pet, was it?
No.
Yeah, was that an EVP with this dog?
No, I haven't seen the prices lately, but if you go to the Rhine Institute, they're all listed there when you go to the website.
They are listed. And you can always ask Loyd too if you contact him. He can give you a price listing too.
Yeah.
And Bob, yeah, I think this one, Ghost Hunting: How to Investigate the Paranormal, is like one of the best intro books. I mean, it's great. It breaks everything down to. Gosh, I don't have my reading glasses on. It just.
His original book too, I think that was put out in the 80s, ESP Hauntings and Poltergeists, I think it was. If you can find that on like ABE Books, that what that is, I think is is the original, and he had broken down the different topics into the books that they're out there now.
Yeah, like the table of contents for this is parapsychology, ESP and PK, survival, poltergeist, hauntings, apparitions, basics, explanations, the initial call, answering the case, interviewing witnesses, fraud, psychics, technology, environmental sensors, cameras, audio recorders. I mean, it's just a great overall paranormal investigation. Yeah.
I consider it the Bible, to be honest with you.
It's really, really good.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what the cost is on this book, but it's well worth.
I don't think it's any more than $20.
Oh, $12.95 it says here on the back. So
yeah.
And then I have another one. It's the Hauntings of San Francisco, which
Yeah.
is fun.
Yeah, that was done with Annette Martin. Had the opportunity of working with her a couple of times.
Is he a
Great
medium?
psychic, great person.
Yeah.
Yeah, great person.
Has she passed, I think?
Yeah, she passed a few years ago.
I think she the lady that's hanging out with the blue lady at the distillery.
It wouldn't surprise me, to be honest with you. I know that she worked with police a lot on cold cases and missing people. I worked a case that she referred me to out in Alabama about some missing. Murdered postal workers. I went out there for a week to do a witness recall on like 7 witnesses in a week. That was pretty interesting.
Any other questions?
No, nothing's come up. It's been quiet once Loyd left.
Well, we can. A thing that he discussed is, befriending your ghost. I've always been a proponent of you catch more flies with honey than you do going into someone's home and screaming and yelling at them. I mean,
yeah, I've never been one of those people that scream at midnight at people.
I always go in and just introduce myself and get them to know me first, and then let them say, okay, if you have, I actually even say, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah,
type of thing is what I do.
Well, and sometimes it takes a little longer than just a one visit. Sometimes you have to get your energy in there so they feel more comfortable with you. I mean, some of the things I've experienced.
Yeah, I'll play you what I play when I'm going in. When I don't introduce myself.
Send this message out to the spirits and other souls that occupy this place. We ask your permission to enter, and we want you to know that we have come as friends for the sole purpose of meeting with you tonight. We come here with respect for this place and for its inhabitants, and we mean you no harm. We are here to seek communication with the positive energies inhabiting this place. We wish to know who you are, and to understand why you are here. We will respect and listen to your wishes, and ask that you do the same for us. We ask that if you desire to communicate through our senses, including our psychic abilities, that you do so without inflicting physical, emotional, or spiritual harm. We have brought equipment that you can use to show us your presence, and use to communicate with us, without causing harm to us. We are here for only a few hours, and we ask for your patience and cooperation while we try to make contact with you. We will try to assist anyone who occupies this place for the greater good of all concerned. So be it. So it is.
Could you hear that?
Yes. What kind of feedback did you get after you used that?
Depends on where we were. It doesn't always work. If the spirit has a bad personality, if their personality is going to suddenly be, rainbows and cotton candy just because I play it. But, it explains what we're doing there. We're not barging into someone's home, like a intruder, breaking in the middle of the night. So at least it explains why we're there. It doesn't actually mean they're going to cooperate, but it's just an easy thing to do to explain why we're there.
Yeah, at least you're trying to break down walls to try to get things moving.
Yeah. Then we have a closing one that let's see if I can. All right.
The time has come when we must leave you. We would like to thank the spirits and energies that have communicated with us and allowed us to access this place in peace and harmony. Remember that you can leave here at any time, or you may stay as you are. It is your choice. As we respect your right to be where you want to be, we ask that you respect us by not attaching your energy to our energy fields, nor attempt to accompany us as we leave this place. According to universal law, you are not allowed to follow us home if we do not want you to, and we state that you may not come with us. Once again, our intention was to learn, to communicate, and to harm no one. We thank you for your help and patience in our research, and we bid you farewell as we leave this place. May you be at peace. So be it. So it is.
And it sounds much better with a British accent than when I say it in a Southern Georgia accent.
Okay, we do have a quick question. Someone, if the world goes into a Great Depression, do you think there'll be an increase in paranormal activity?
Well, I noticed last year a change in energy during COVID. I mean, there were the vibration of the planet was so low that I think there was a negativity rising from, I don't know, the spirit world, a collective consciousness. We were all in the toilet, basically. But I think that does affect things, just like solar and lunar, and the atmospheric conditions affect things.
Well,
I mean,
I think that people were more at home, and probably if their house was active, they were probably more experiencing more because they were at home.
Yeah.
So I think the activity is always there. I just think it's when we are available to experience it is when we have an increase or a decrease. That's just my opinion, though.
You know, when a spirit that has bad intentions is going to go for the weakest link, and if someone's suffering from depression, that's kind of someone they may gravitate to, I think, which, is a whole different situation you got to deal with.
Maybe.
Anybody else have anything?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
But I like talking about separating the paranormal from the coincidences.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, synchronicities, I do believe in things like I asked my guide to send me signs, and depending on how fast it happens and what it is, sometimes I definitely believe in those, and usually it's numbers for me in triplicate, like 222 or 333. So, but if you're going into someone's home, and like he said, if a picture falls, did that picture just drop, or did it shoot across the room and land 20 feet? That's a different situation than it just, we had a case, and we had the DVR camera set up in the living room, and we were all in the back bedroom doing an EVP session, and all of a sudden we started hearing voices, and I was like, I'm hearing voices, and I opened the bedroom door, and you could hear voices. I said, the television's on.
That was just my inside voices coming out again.
Oh, that's a good one. Use your inside voice. But so we went into the living room, and the big television's on, and I thought, okay. So looking at the DVR footage, saw a big orb go right to the TV screen, and the TV went on right when the orb hit the television. Now, a lot of people would say, oh my gosh, that spirit turned the television on.
Mm-hmm.
But what we did was I got the model number of the television, the make and model, the serial number, looked for the remote control. The remote control was where the cat could not have done it. We when the client came back, we said, is your television on a timer? Blah, blah, blah. Does this happen? And they're like, sometimes it'll turn off by itself, but it's never turned on by itself. So later,
you gotta love software glitches.
Went home, Googled the television turning on by itself, and there were lots of reports of the television that model, or actually the whole, I forget, Panasonic, I'm not sure, of that whole series of turning off and on by itself. So was that orb turning it on, or was it just a mechanical fault with the television? So we could not. Yeah, we can't say to the client, oh, your ghost turned your TV on. Oh my God, you better get out of this house. No, you can't do that.
We had a case one time that we were called, and this lady told us that every time that she opened her door into her bedroom, she would see a chair rock. So what we did is we set up a camera to find out that, and also noticed too that there was some loose boards on the stairs. So when they walked up the stairs, there was a loose board that when they when they were going to the door, it would creak under the door, freak out the cat that was sitting in the chair, and the cat would run under the bed. So what was happening is that every time she opened the door, she would see the chair move, but she didn't see the inside where the cat was on the chair and running under the bed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that kind of fits in with what you're talking about too, is that coincidences.
Mhm.
And using critical thinking and being analytical and not taking everything at face value.
Well, I think I think with folks getting more into TV and looking at the TV shows, that they automatically jump to places haunted because they look. I mean, well, let's face it. A lot of folks that call in don't have the background. That don't have the background to about haunting, so they really don't know. So they're just going by. I'm sorry. I apologize for the dogs. Okay, all hell breaking loose over here.
He's a ghost.
Yeah. So they have nothing to go by, so they're thinking that things are haunted, basically.
Your house is haunted. Your dog's telling you. Where did I get that intro to spirits? Honestly, I've had it for so long. I want to say I got it off of an app or something from Matt Payne. I think Payne. But honestly, I've had it so long I can't remember. Maybe I can dictate it to my Word program and then put it onto the page later when I get time. Because you don't want me to do it in my accent. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a cool little recording. How are we doing on time? I don't even know what time it is.
If we're doing only an hour and a half, we have 10 minutes.
So any other burning questions for us? Trying to look through here. I tell you, Loyd, I could talk to him all night and just, pick his brain because
I think there was one question that we didn't get to because he had to go, and it was this one. Allison had asked about, investigators need to be good communicators. Part of this is to put yourself in the other's perspective. When you bring that to an investigation and can imagine being on the other side of the realm, you begin to investigate differently. You allow space after you ask a question. You allow them to build energy and give them something to draw energy from. What's your take and thoughts on this?
We are bioenergetic energy factories. So we bring energy into an investigation. Are the entities using our energy to manifest? We often talk about paranormal hangovers and getting home and being exhausted and sleeping for 2 days. Is that because we've been up all night, or has the entity in the house been drawing our energy out of our bodies? We don't know. Mm-hmm. Is she talking about us putting ourselves in the ghosts space and how they would look at it? Let me see that question again. Can you put it back up?
Let me scroll back up to it.
To make sure I got that right.
If I can find it again. Yeah, there it is.
So the other's perspective, if she's talking about the ghost or the client that's in the house, I'm not sure. On the other side of the realm, I would think she would be talking about the spirit, which that's, like if I'm a spirit and I'm in my house that somebody else is living in now, and I'm not understanding why, and then I've got this group of people coming in with these gadgets that light up and bang and squeak and are yelling at me to do tricks and do this and do that. I wouldn't respond to that. I'd be going, get out myself. It's kind of silly.
I know in the aspect that she was asking, do you leave space between asking questions? You should leave.
I think that's standard procedure with an EVP. You have to leave a certain amount of space for them to answer or gather energy, whatever it is. If you don't leave the space, you're not going to get your answer. I would think, right, Philip?
Right.
Yeah. And also there's an experiment you can do called an EVP circle. And it's however many people are in your team sit in a circle and hold hands. And the reason of this is to build energy. ask the EVP questions, wait, and each person asks the same question.
Mhm. Yep.
Then go back and see if one person got an answer or another person or the same person's getting answered, and see how that group energy, if it's affecting at all the EVP session.
Right. And you also need to think sometimes, like with computer lagging, there's a lag between our realm to their realm. And it's not even just an energy building. It's just, it could take time for them to get their words to us. And that's another reason why I truly feel that you need to leave it. And the one thing I wanted to bring up also that we talked about earlier is, coincidence and repetition. It's so hard to go and ask a ghost, because you don't want to demand them, or, they're not trick ponies, but it's constantly, I always feel bad asking them to do something 3 times to prove it's not coincidence.
Yeah.
But you have to do that in a friendly manner.
If we talk about knocks on the wall, our motto is 2 is a coincidence, 3 is a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 taps on the wall, we don't note for anything. 3 taps, that's more of a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have always, and myself have always gone in, and when we do questions and stuff, we tend to do it in a conversational style. My thoughts are, as Loyd had mentioned, I believe we've talked about it as well, is that you're dealing with people. There's good people, there's bad people, there are idiots. So you got to know who you're dealing with first before you go in and speak with anybody. But in a conversational style, I think you get more than just demanding of things and being robotic and stuff. I think the more warmer you are, the better your responses.
Sure. And that question I just saw, can you pull it up? Bob asked, I wonder if sometimes the spirit is in denial about being dead, and our questions can force them to face the fact that they are dead, and that makes them angry and not cooperative. I've thought about, I've done what we call spirit rescue before. A spirit, you think of someone dropping dead of an aneurysm. I mean, you're alive 1 second, you're dead the next, or you're shot directly in the head in a war, and you're dead. I mean, it's happened so quickly. Think of how confusing that would be.
If you're dealing with a person, it's denial too.
Yeah.
I mean, if the death happens so quickly, the last thing you remember is you're walking around doing whatever. So, you tell them that they're dead. That would be like you telling another person the same thing, and they look at you going, "You're full of crap."
Yeah.
And that's a normal response. Denial.
Yeah. I mean, think of that state of confusion that they're in, and they're like, "I'm not dead. I mean, I'm doing everything. I've got the same emotions that I had." Sometimes you have to do a little counseling, spirit counseling. They still have a state of mind that can be changed. I mean, and you're like you're a therapist. You can't just say you're dead, you need to go. I mean, it's like, what do you mean I'm dead? I need to go.
Yeah. This is where psychology actually fits in.
Exactly.
As you say, you're counseling a person. So then you use those techniques as you're dealing with the spirit, and I think you find that you get more reaction or more of a benefit to them treating them as a person.
Yeah,
because they're people.
There's not everyone should be a rescue medium, because it's not as easy as everybody wants to think it is. But there's a good book by Amy Major, and it's something light, leading the light, or something to the light. It's a really good basic explanation of how the state of mind can affect them still being here, and how to explain things to them. And there's also techniques about calling in spirits that are related to them, or someone that they respect.
They're familiar energies to help them cross.
To help them go across. Yeah, like we had a case a couple years ago, and I pretty much knew that the homeowner was still in the house
because of the severing of the.
Yeah, I mean, I've cried several times, because you can feel that energy shift. when they've moved on. But it's a beautiful thing. But it's not just something that everybody needs to do. Did that answer that question?
I think it did.
Yeah.
You said what I would have said, so we're good.
Yeah, I had read there was an instance of I think it was like a child molester spirit or something really nasty that they wanted to move on. You can't force a spirit to move on. I mean, you can't. I mean, sage, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
you can't.
Yeah, you're dealing with free will.
They've got free will, but you can call in someone from the other side that has authority over them. Like, did they respect their sergeant in the army? Did they respect their grandfather? Can their grandfather say, you need to come with me, buddy? Do that kind of thing. You can't just say, go to the light, go to the light. But
well, sometimes there's tough love too. I mean, you just have to do what you got to do, and it's hard. It's hard to do.
I mean, there's cleansing techniques, the sage and crystals and salt and the iron stakes, to grid a house and doing things. And that's a lot of putting your thought into action and energy and changing the energy of the location. And that's a lot of, sometimes more so for the homeowner than it is the actual spirit. Because the homeowner is taking control of their home again, but their intentions through these rituals. Am I explaining that right? So it's not so much.
Sounds good to me.
The smoke, the actual sage. It's their intent that they are putting out there to change that energy in that location. Which spirits or energy change the energy flow. We think that works. So
yeah, it's the power of self-belief and self-possession, where if you're thoroughly confident with yourself and confident what you're doing to your house, whether it's the sage or the crystals, as long as you believe in them, that energy is going to go forward, and the ghosts will respect that for most of the time.
Yeah,
yeah, reclaiming your territory, that helps a lot too.
Okay.
Any
No more questions. It looks like we're done, because we've hit that. Actually, we've passed the 1.5 hour mark.
Well, this has been fun. I've really.
It's Miller time.
Yay! It's go to the potty time for me. So
First round's on me, guys.
Well, Heather, I'm so glad you're back with us and doing well.
Yeah, it's good to be up and not sleeping 24/7.
And running StreamYard because I'm not coordinated enough to do it. I can't do 3 things at one time.
I'm slowly getting better at it, so.
So, what's going on next? I see you're running it. What's our next presentation, and when is it?
March 31st at 9 p.m. Eastern. Robert Bradley will be joining us. He's one of our educators, and we're going to be talking about the scientific method and how it relates to the paranormal field. So I think he sent me his presentation, so we'll have a slideshow as well as a Q&A at the end, because I know he specializes in the scientific field as well, and that's also something that I dabble in when I do my investigations.
Yeah, Robert, go ahead.
I was going to say, I have a scientific method worksheet if you want me to forward that over to you and take a look at it.
Oh, I want it.
Yep. Yeah,
okay.
Just Facebook or email it to me.
Okay.
Can we post that to the group for everyone?
Sure, I could, whatever you want me to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I like that. And what can you name off some of the other presentations we have so people can start thinking about it?
1 second to pull that list up. I closed that window on my computer, so give me a second.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Okay. Hold on 1 more second, it's loading.
We have
technology.
Please share our live streams. We really appreciate everybody's support and hope you're enjoying our information we're bringing to you.
Okay, yeah, upcoming presentations, April 14th, we have an equipment demonstration where there's going to be some of our educators discussing different pieces of equipment and why you choose them. And I will be, again, touching on my non-tech tools, and we'll actually demonstrate to you how to use the different tools. Philip, on April 28th, will be doing a water scrying presentation. On May 12th, Linda and myself will be doing a presentation on different team positions and how to organize your paranormal group. May 26th, Tim Woolworth will be joining us. June 9th, we have several of our educators will be talking about our scariest cases.
And Tim Woolworth is ITC.
Okay.
Yeah.
The history of ITC. Yeah, it's a really good presentation. I've seen that one. Everybody should join in for that.
Okay, so, and then I know we have Lisa doing a presentation, but I don't know the topic of it yet. And that will be June 23rd.
Lisa's in the middle of trying to move, so yeah, she's quite busy. In my presentation, I'm going on over all types of scrying, but we'll be showing my images that I capture. So nothing scientific. It's totally woo-woo, but it's a lot of fun.
So perfect. Well, thank you guys again for joining us. We will see you on March 31st when we talk about the scientific method. You guys all have a great day.
Y'all have a great night.